Alright, next up, my favorite class in 5th edition, Warlock. I know Eldritch Blast isn't very compelling, but thematically they are by far my favorite. Archfey is going to go in my probably A tier because... No, actually I'm going to put it in S tier because a Fey is a very chaotic force, so you never know what your patron is going to be asking you to do. Celestial, once again, probably the weak point. I'm going to put it in B. Fathomless is... it was based off of the Lurker of the Deep, so that's sort of your C Warlock. Its sort of tentacle things are really, really cool. I'm going to put it in A. I might move it up to S later. Fiend, it's your standard Warlock. Again, I'm going to put it with Celestial because those two kind of go hand in hand. Genie used to be really, really bad before it got not UA, but now you have Wish, which is something really cool, and it's sort of your elemental Warlock. I'm going to put it in B, though, just because, you know, Celestial Fiends and Elementals, they sort of all seem to do the same thing for me. Great Old One is a topic to me that is very, very interesting, just because I don't really know how I feel about creating some sort of entity within your world that is above the gods, that looks down on this multiverse as a speck of dust in its world. It seems like a little bit too powerful to me, just like the idea of that being existing, even though it doesn't care about us. But I'm gonna put it in A. Hexblade is okay. I'm gonna put it in B. I mean, there's not too much you can do. I mean, as far as what your patron can be with your Hexblade, it can be literally whatever you want, which to me is kind of a hindrance in the class. I like to have some sort of sense of guidance as to what my patron is going to be. Like all of the other ones, you have some sort of an idea of what they're going to be, but Hexblade, it can be anything. So you don't really know what kind of Warlock you're going to be playing before you make it, and talk with your Dungeon Master about who your patron can be. And Undying, we're going to replace that with the Undead Warlock, which is currently in UA, but will probably be released, because Undying is really, really bad in combat, but Undying in the game itself, or Undead Warlock, which is in Unearthed Arcana right now, is really, really good. Probably a little bit too good, it'll be nerfed, but nonetheless, Undead Patron, very, very cool thematically. Alright, and next up, my personal least favorite class to play in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. As a DM, Druids can be very cool, but to me, I've never really enjoyed playing one. Dreams is probably one of the better ones. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in A tier. I just like the themes of being connected to the Feywild and all the chaos that can bring, and all of the influence that the Feywild can have on a character is very interesting. Land is pretty... not great in my opinion. It's just, you know, oh, you like forest? Cool. Be a forest, druid. Moon is probably the best one as far as in-game abilities go, so I'll give it some boost for that. I'll put it in B for that. Shepherd is really, really cool. I'm DMing for a Shepherd right now, and what they can do, they sort of have a connection with all sorts of different types of animals that they can then summon in combat. Thematically, I'm not sure how much variation you can have with that. It could stem from what kind of animals you like, or what kind of place you grew up in. I'll put it in A for now. Spores is another one that's pretty cool to me, just because it's sort of ideas of death and decay, and using the natural magic of all of that. I'll put... Ooh, where'd it go? E. Yeah, I'll put it up in A for now. Stars, I have no experience with. Didn't even know it existed. Wildfire, it's just your fire druid. I'm gonna stick it in C. I'm tempted to put it down into D just because there's not too much variation of what kind of wildfire druid you can make. They're going to be one who specializes in using fire magic, and where that comes from in your past, I can't really think of anything right now, so I'm gonna put it in C. On to our rangers. First up, Beastmaster. While in combat and in game, it's probably one of the worst subclasses, so I have to take some points off for that, but not all. I really like the idea of having an animal companion, so I'm going to put it in B. Fey Wanderer, I don't know too much about, so let me go look. Okay, just based on the name being Fey and the brief description I've read and what spells they get for being a Fey Wanderer, I like it because it gives you sort of enchantment magic that lets you mess with people's heads. So I'm going to put it in A tier because that seems really cool. I would like to play one of those probably. Gloomstalker is pretty good. I've DM'd for one of those. They're sort of kind of a roguish archetype of ranger that sort of seeps within the shadows and is a strike from hidden locations. So I'll put it in B. Horizon Walker, really, really cool because, as I've said, I like anything that has to deal with other worlds, like Far Realm and stuff like that. And it serves as a protector, much like the Watcher's Paladin. So I'm going to put it in the same classes or same tier as that. So I'll put it in B. I might move that up. I might move both of those up. Yeah, I'm going to do that now. Hunter, it's your standard, it's your standard ranger. I'm going to put it in D. Monster Slayer, it's more like your standard ranger, but instead of animals, I'm hunting monsters. And then Swarm Keeper is one of the cooler ones because I like the idea of a bug druid. On to Artificer, I have to come clean and say that I don't think that I've ever DM'd for a prolonged period of time for an Artificer. So we're going to go with basically entirely just thematically. So Alchemist, I'll slap it in B tier for now. Actually, I'm going to drop it down to C. Armor is probably the best one. Armor is the one where you can... Yeah, it functions like a second skin. Yeah, that's the one that's cool. I'm going to put it in A. Artillerist, yeah, I think it's cool that you can like plop down a little turret like you're playing Team Fortress. So I'm going to put that up in B. And then Battlesmith. Okay, Battlesmith is the one where you make a whole other sort of mech suit. So I'm going to put that up with armor. Yeah, for sure. I might even... Yeah, I'm going to... Whatever. The order of these don't matter. It's just... They're all in the same tier, and they're alphabetically, depending on how they came up. Alright, we're getting down to some of the last classes. I noticed that we somehow skipped a Paladin, and Oathbreaker's my favorite Paladin, so I'm going to go ahead and strap that in S tier right now. It goes before Cleric. Okay. Arcane Archer, I've not DM'd, but I've played with one of these. Thematically, I mean, they're okay. All of the fighters are kind of lackluster. I know I keep using that word, but there's nothing really special about too many of them, except for Echo Knight. I'm going to go ahead and put Echo Knight up in A tier right now. But Arcane Archer, it's a magical archer. It's nothing crazy about it. I'm going to put it in B. I don't dislike it, but, Battlemaster is your default, fighter. I hit things with special moves. I'm going to put it in C. Champion, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but it's so bland in combat that I have to put it in D, maybe E. I'll keep it in D for now. Cavalier, I know nothing about. I'm going to put it in question mark. Eldritch Knight, so it's different from Room Knight. Okay, I have to go look up the differences between those. Okay, I'm an idiot. I forgot the difference between Eldritch Knight and Rune Knight. Eldritch Knight is your spellcasting fighter, which is going to be the coolest one, so I'll put it up with Echo Knight. Cyanite, again, I know nothing, but Rune Knight I do know something about, so I'll do that right now. Rune Knight is you enchant your weapon with runes of giants, so that's pretty cool to me as far as fighters go. If there was a little bit more to it, because you're kind of limited that it has to be giant runes, and where you got those can be pretty interesting. There's a variety of giants to choose from, so I'll go with B for that. Don't know too much about... Okay, Samurai is... I mean, when they say Samurai, it creates an image of your mind of, ancient Egypt, person dressed in all black with a single katana. But it can be a lot more than that. So I think I'm happy with it being in B tier. Psionic Knight, or Cyanite, I looked at it, and apparently it has to deal with a lot with Far Realm, which I've always been a fan of, but I don't have too much experience with it, so I'm just going to leave it in B. B is definitely the most popular so far, and I think that makes sense just because it's sort of a middle ground, and some of them are going to be better. I think it'll be sort of, evenly distributed between, like, S through D. Last up is Purple Dragon Knight. Purple Dragon's kind of like your sworn protector. I'm going to put it in C, just because there's not really too much you can do with that. They're sworn to be a great source of protection and strength. There's not really too much you can do with that, in my opinion. On to Barbarian. First up is Ancestral Guardian. So these sort of centralize around the fact that you're fighting for your family, you're fighting for some cause that your lineage has brought to you. And I can think of quite a few things. I mean, just whenever you're basing it off of your family, there's a lot you can do with it. And that includes breaking away from your family, but still being able to use what they've taught you. So I'm going to put it in A. I actually really kind of like the ideas of all of that. Battle Rager, I'm going to put in E tier for the reason being you have to be playing a dwarf to play it. It's very, very limiting. So yeah, E tier. Beast is kind of like your lycanthropic barbarian, which I really like a lot. I'm going to put it in A. Berserker is kind of your default. It's just sort of a person that goes absolutely, mad or goes berserk. So C, maybe D later. We'll take another look later. Storm Herald, storm magic, very, very cool. I'll put it in A. And there's also a little bit of a magical essence within that character, so yeah. Totem Warrior is probably the best barbarian. I don't really want to put it in S, but just because you have to sort of be a nature person, but there's just so much you can do with it. Like, there's so many options within the subclass to make it specify whatever kind of character you want to play, at least in combat. So I'll put it in A. Wild Soul, it's more Feywild magic, I believe, so I'm going to put it in A. A lot of A's here for Barbarian. And Zealot is another A in my opinion. I mean, that's a really cool, I am the representative of this god, and I'm here to, F stuff up. So I think it can be a lot of different characters because there's a lot of different gods to choose from, so you can play it however you want. Moving on to our rogues. First up is Arcane Trickster. Thematically, it's okay. In combat, it's pretty, being able to use magic as any sort of non-primary magic caster is really, really good. So I'm going to put it in B for now. Assassin is probably one of my... Well, actually, when you're an assassin, you know what kind of character you're going to play. So there's not really too much variation there, but it's really good in combat. Inquisitive and Mastermind, these two sort of go hand in hand for me. I think I do actually tend to like Inquisitive just a little bit more because I like the idea of being able to, seek out whatever it is you're trying to find, whereas Mastermind, you're sort of, the puppet master. Both of them are really cool, but I think I like Inquisitive just a little bit better. Phantom is one that I don't have any experience with, but from what little I know about it, it looks very, very cool. And it's another sort of undead, and I sort of have a trend here of undead. I'm tempted to put it in S, but I don't really have any experience with it, so I'm going to leave it in A. Scout, it's cool. It's okay. I'm probably going to stick it in C, though. Soul Knife is your psionic rogue. Not a huge fan of psionics. I'm going to stick it in C. I know that I put Cyanite in B, but for some reason that one just seemed to call more to me. I don't know. Swashbuckler is pretty fun. It sort of makes for this, jukey, very, very dexterous. I mean, obviously it's a rogue, but one who goes in and out of combat with ease, and so in game it actually can be pretty fun. As far as what kind of characters you can make with it, it's actually just kind of limiting, so I'm going to put it in B. Thief is kind of your default. Again, I'm going to stick it in C. The last class we have is Monk. A lot of variation here, but a lot of people don't seem to like Monk very much. I personally find it that you can make a lot of different, very unique characters with Monk, so let's go ahead and get into it. Astral Self is the one that sort of gives you a second person behind you. As for what kind of characters you can make, I'm not really sure, but just thematically, the idea of sort of being able to control this other being is pretty cool, so I'm gonna stick that in A. Drunken Master doesn't seem like it should be a monk to me. It seems like it should be a fighter, so for that reason I'm going to put it relatively low. I'm going to put it in D. Four Elements is my favorite monk. I'm going to put it in A. Tempted to put it in S. I know it's really, really bad in combat, so I'll put it in A. Kenseis are another one that seem a lot like fighter to me because they specialize in their weaponry. But the idea of a monk is that they're going through some sort of ritualistic training. So I'm going to put it higher than I would just the normal fighter. I'll put it in C. Long Death is really cool because it's more undead and more focusing on death. But once again, it seems kind of limiting in the idea of what kind of death, how they're going to be interacting with death. So I'll put it in B. It's quite a bit lower than the other undead and death themed ones that I've had so far, but yeah, that's where I'll put it for now. Way of Mercy, it's your healing monk. It can be a lot of different upbringings of your training for that. So I mean, even if your wish or your focus of attention and study is behind something evil, you could be sort of playing a support role in all that. So Mercy can be a lot of things. So I'll put it in B with Long Death. I don't feel like it's an A tier subclass though. Open Hand is kind of once again a default one, but I like it more than some of the other champions and thieves. I'm gonna put it in B for now. Shadow is another really cool one for me. Any sort of you're very mysterious about what you do. It could be because of you've seen something that you can never speak of, or it could be that's just the way you were raised and how you were trained to deal with your key power. It's just sort of keeping to yourself and being hidden within the shadows. So I could see a lot of different characters coming out of that. Sun Soul is one I have had experience with. I've made an NPC with one of them. I gotta say though, it's pretty limiting as far as what characters you're going to make, because you're sort of forced to study some sort of aspect of light and the sun, mainly probably Palor. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Alright, so this is the review. I agree with everything that's in S tier. I think they all are supposed to be there. Moving on to A, if I want to move anything up or down. Wizards was my first class that I made, so I might make a little bit more changes here than otherwise. Enchantment I'm going to move up because it creates sort of dark wizard vibes. Divination, I mean, I still really, really like the idea of a character that knows everything that it's going to happen before it happens. So I'll leave it there for now. Yeah, I think I'm happy with Wizard. Keeping going with the A tiers, I'm going to move Eloquence. I'm going to move Eloquence up. Yeah, I'm going to move Eloquence up. I think Tempest, I'm happy moving. No, I think Tempest is going to be fine there. Direct Mind, yeah, all that's good. I'm going to move Fathomless up. Dream, Shepherd, and Spores. Spores is really cool, but I'm going to leave it where it is. Horizon Walker was pretty cool, but it's combat. It's a ranger. It's not. Yeah, I'm going to leave it in A. Battlesmith. Yeah. Fighters. Eldritch Knight's good, but Echo Knight's better. Whether or not Echo Knight's good enough to bump up to A tier, I don't think so. Moving on to A, Storm Herald I'm going to move up. I think you guys can sense a trend here. I like Storm Magic and Undead Magic. Both of them are really, really cool to me. Alright, B tier. I'm going to move Glamour down. Yeah, just sort of the me bard. Thematically, it's gonna be pretty limiting. Yeah. Devotion, Redemption, Happy, Trickery and War in B tier. Yeah, I really like Sorcerer. I kind of want to move some of those up. I'm gonna move Storm Sorcery up. I'm gonna move Wild Magic Sorcery. Well, no, I'm happy with that. Celestial Fiend, Genie, and Hexblade. I know I said there's almost like too much creativity, but at the same time that creates for a lot of variation in your character, so I'm gonna move it up to A. Bloomstalker, all this is okay. I'm gonna move Mastermind up because I like them both. I really like both of them. Phantom's cool because it's the undead thing. Arcane Archer I might move down. Yeah, I'm gonna move Arcane Archer down. Happy with everything else there. Yeah, I think I'm happy with everything here. Alright, so here is my final tier list for the time being for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. You take a look at the S tier. Those are all of my favorites. These are the ones that I didn't really know too much about, I had no experience with, and yeah, here it is. So yeah, as always, thank you all for watching, and I hope you find yourself at a table real soon.